Hey, what's up, y'all? Hold on, let me take the sunnies off. I want to thank you, Eye to Eye, for checking out Sway's Universe. And I appreciate it. We got so many videos we want you to see, so push that notification button for me. Do it now and enjoy the video. Peace.
This is Sway. Sway.
Sway.
Sway.
In the morning.
In the morning.
In the morning. Shake it. Wake your fuck ass up. That crust out, y'all.
The game ain't changed him, he changed the game. From the first time I ever saw him spit live at Rap Fix on MTV, I was bewildered. I was baffled by his skill set. I even told him the way you dissect that pocket is commendable, it's admirable. If I was a rapper today, I'll come back in the form of this man.
That's hard.
That's some hard shit right there.
That's super hard.
You'll have his jacket too?
I'll take his jacket. I already had the locks.
93 punks.
Yeah, I mean, we might do different on the jewelry, but I like his jewelry.
I'm chilling, man. You know, I'm low-key with it, man.
I like it. But he got an album called The Autobiography that I had a chance to listen to 3 different times, Heather B, because I really enjoyed the diversity in the sonics of this album, what he did with the music texture. You can't put him in one category. He's spitting bars. This man is rapping. It's a real rap album, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome him back to the show, the one and only Vic Mensa.
Thank you for having me, man. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it's fun, man. Vic and I cross paths often. Every now and then we might shoot a text. Hey, Vic, you good? Yeah, cool. If you need me on a verse, let me know. He never responds.
My big bro, man. You already know.
Well, what'd he say about the verses, though, and you?
He never responds.
Okay.
He never responds.
Talk about you need a verse? Hell no.
He's like, I don't need that shit. But this album, right? You know what's interesting about this album, Vic? As long as I've known you, listening to songs on this album makes me feel like heaven on earth. You know what I mean? Listening to this song about your friend, you know, it makes me feel like I get to know you better because you're so honest and transparent, which you always have been. But you're telling your stories. Oh, we going into Heaven on Earth?
Oh, this is the reprise, actually.
It's
the revamp of Heaven on Earth. I wanted to tell these stories in this album so that somebody listening to it would honestly kind of know me better than a lot of people that might know me in passing, you know, in person, in real life. Like, this is just very personal and vulnerable to a point that you rarely would be with, like, somebody that you don't know closely. And it was necessary for me to take it all the way to that place in order to write the album, first of all, and to grow from the situations that I speak about.
What were you? Do you set an agenda musically? What you want to accomplish? Because this album, I can't really. Not that who cares about categories, but you do a lot of different things on this album. When you think about the Heaven on Earth song, the Fire Next Time song, which is one of my favorite songs.
Shout out to No I.D.
And that's you singing on it. Like, you really opening up your vocal chops on this album to me.
I guess I don't really like write from a perspective thinking about like genre or what type of song I'm making, so much as like what I'm saying, what the song means, what it's about. And the way I approached writing this album was really like an author. Like, I was trying to weave a narrative together between these different songs. That's why I call it the autobiography, because every song I felt like had to really speak to a very important part of my life or my person or my personality, my experience. It had to be like a pillar of my experience. And these different scenes, chapters, the way that they interplay is like very literary in that there's like foreshadowing, and then there's referencing back to what happened before, and kind of like drawing context from every scenario.
Damn, man. See, it shows in the music. And the music and how it's compatible with the stories. These are very powerful stories. And then secondly, if I could be honest with myself, I spend a lot of time listening to music and not being fulfilled. It's some people might say, "Oh man, it might be a generational thing." Could be. I don't know. But then I'll listen to a Vic Mensa's album and feel like, damn, you identifying. I like a project or a song that kind of identify feelings that a person may be having from an introspective place that touches me on feelings that I may have had that I couldn't put to words. You know what I mean? That ain't generational. That's just life. You know what I mean?
100%.
And I think you were able to accomplish that with the producers. Do you randomly select, or how do you select who you?
Well, definitely nothing is random.
Yeah.
Like I chased No I.D. down.
Okay.
First of all,
okay, you gotta get No I.D., man. That's
and
a legend.
I chased No I.D. down to executive produce the album. This is something that has been a goal of mine and somebody I wanted to work with since I was 12 years old, and I first met him when I was 17. And so it's been a little bit of time since then. And I was blessed to be able to, just learn from him and have him involved in this album in a major way, from a conductor standpoint, really. It was like I had a lot of the music and a lot of the arrangement, but No I.D. was the person that came in and he made it come together. And he touched every beat and redid the drums on this and brought in, just some brilliant musicians like my man Ron Gilmore, who I actually met years ago on tour with J. Cole, and changed the key of certain songs, slowed certain songs down, sped them up, switched, made it go halftime. He's just like, he's really, really, really a producer. Like when you think about a Quincy Jones coming in to produce Michael Jackson or something, like that's the approach that No I.D. brings to production and that he brought to this album. It's so focused on the song. And you think about a producer and you see what No I.D. did with 444, and in that sense, it was a lot more beat maker, but also a producer, with conceptually and everything else involved. But it's fascinating to me to see him do Hov's album and make all the beats and really pioneer this sound of these like improvisational sample chops, and then do something completely different on my album to where I have a lot of the beats, and he comes in and he really like took my vision and the way that I viewed the production, and it's from like a classic strong staple standpoint is where I was coming from, and he just put that on steroids and brought it to life. So I'm infinitely grateful to him and just a big fan of his.
Yeah, you must lose sleep at night, waking up thinking, "Damn, I had No I.D. EP my project."
Yo, that's
from Chicago.
That's Common is my favorite rapper. That was my favorite rapper growing up was Common. If you was ever to ask me when I was like 12 through 17, 18, who's your favorite rapper? It's not like a list like it is now. It was just Common was my favorite rapper. So one day it'll all make sense, and Resurrection and Can I Borrow a Dollar? And all albums that were produced in their entirety by No I.D. And so I always connected to that because I was like, Common is rapping about the same bus I'm riding right now to go back to the crib from a high school that he just mentioned. He said Whitney Young and Kenwood was said to have the best chicks, but mostly Hyde Park and V-Hoes was who I mess with. And I'm from Hyde Park, and I went to Whitney Young, and I got girls at Kenwood. So I'm like, I'm fully identifying with this. So when I was able to, get No I.D. producing this album, it is just, for Lil Vic, that's a dream come true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Y'all did a great job.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
he mentioned Common. I thought you might jump in.
Don't
Share it with
Sway.
Vic. Share it with Vic. Your relationship with Common.
Don't do that now.
Come on,
Sway.
just let Vic know. He knows Common.
I want to know. I want to know you messing with me. I want to know though, with everything that you shared, what was the studio sessions like then? Were it closed sessions? Did you just kind of not want to be bothered? What was your sessions like?
I'm pretty personal and like just not one of those guys that has a lot of people in the studio in general, and No I.D is like on his third wave of, if not his fourth, of making music and being a producer. So you can imagine that he's not like in there turned up all the time. He's like 40 something, focused. And so the studio sessions were just like, it was just very focused, man, and I would have my inner circle, my inner team there with me. It's not really like even my homies that I grew up with. It's just the people that I'm working with right now from a creative standpoint. So, just management, my boy Jake, doing photography and creative direction, and my homie Nick, who was kind of like, he came in as an intern, but he ended up really playing like an A&R role in the project. So the studio sessions was, just like, we was really trying to get to it. It was funny because I pretty much do everything to an extent. So I like engineer, and I, be on Pro Tools, chopping things up, and like playing keyboards and making beats and recording and all these things. And at a certain point, I had like a couple more verses I had to like change and write, and No I.D banned me from being at the computer, man. He was like,
really?
He was like, get off the computer, man. Go rap. I'm trying to, I'm sitting in there up late night, like until 3, 4 a.m., maybe 7 a.m., honestly, sometimes, just clicking stuff, like dragging and chopping files, and he's like, nigga, get off the computer, go rap. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be an artist.
But it was also bringing up albums like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, or
classic.
Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, or Mobb Deep, The Infamous, and seeing what made the life inside of those records tick, and what made those records classics, what records were on there, how they related to each other, what records weren't on there, like what was left off. I think that was a big part of the process, was like No I.D's process, without giving away too much, is just that he's like the ultimate skeptic. That's what they called Socrates, right? He was a skeptic. No I.D is like Socrates. Word up. He's the ultimate skeptic. So he tries to imagine everything that we do from every possible angle, every possible perspective. Like he's always playing devil's advocate. And sometimes it can be kind of frustrating, because anything I do, he'll be like, well, they could say this, and it could be perceived this way, and this and that, and but it, at the end of the day, it really, it helped me bring the album to a place where it was, as bulletproof as it could be.
Okay.
And that was that was another thing that he really brought to it, was just like a lot of perspective, and that 20 years in the game, like 25 years in the game, like gives you just a way of seeing things that is informed that I don't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not 25 years old, so
Damn,
it's crazy to think he's been really doing this longer than I've been alive.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing too, Vic. When you get to that point in your life,
you too. Word up, and I see a lot of like parallels. I feel like you, Sway, are also just one of those few people that I've met that I watched when I was growing up, that really still works and progresses, hungry like a young man, and just like, and that's why I'm so indebted to No I.D, and also just like really inspired by him and by you and by people that have been able to take a passion for what they do and adapt and grow and change with the times, and stay interesting and stay fresh, because everybody's always talking about relevant,
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody wants to be relevant, but at the end of the day, that's not what is important to me. That's not really what inspires me. You know, you might not say Lauryn Hill is like relevant today because she's not all on Shade Room or something. But to me, like what she did in one album or what D'Angelo did in 2 albums, like that's always relevant to me. And like I'm just trying to be in line to be making music that's gonna be around for a long time.
Man, Vic Mensa, man. This album, the autobiography, if you hear the passion and how he talks about his process, that alone makes it worth picking up. All right, I'm gonna play one of my favorite songs on it. There's a few of them. I love what you and Sid did with Gorgeous.
Sid is really dope, man. I've been a big fan of hers and of the internet for a long time. I remember it was a point in time, it was like a week when I was traveling a lot. I felt like I was at more internet shows than she was. You know? I went to the show in Chicago, then I went to the show in LA and in New York. I'm like, damn, I should be a part of this band.
Yeah. But so in making that song, how much input did they have in on it, or was that all No I.D?
No, that song was, you know, really, really put together before I reached out to her, and it was my boy, a kid named Will Hasty, who is just a really dope creative that does lights and a lot of other things on my team. He had started working with the internet, and you know, I've known them for a long time and worked with them before, but he was like, yo. He kept being like, let me know if you want me to bring Sid through, you know? And I was like, hell yeah, I want you to bring Sid through, you know?
Yeah.
So she came through, and originally I was thinking about asking her to be on a different record. That's one of my favorite records from the album. Is called Coffee and Cigarettes. And it was dope to me, the perspective that she came from, and just like how candidly honest she was, you know, because this is one of my favorite records on the album. I'm like, this record is dope as shit. She heard it. She was like, yeah, that's dope, but that ain't for me. And then, you know, Will told me that, you know, where she was coming from was she was like, you know, she's a person that, you know, can lean towards like being dark just like I can, but so she doesn't make sad songs.
Okay.
And I guess a lot of my songs are pretty dark and like there's a lot of pain in them. And Gorgeous is one of the only songs that was kind of brighter. And so that was a record that she connected to.
Let's hear it, man. We're going to come back with Vic Mensa, 888-742-3345. Vic Mensa. You're so... Oh, no, I can't do it without you. I need the background support. Vic Mensa is here.
I need the karaoke effect.
Vic turned away from me like, damn, you fucking up a masterpiece, dog. You know, dabbed on out. We're going to open up these phone lines in a second. Vic Mensa is here.
Yeah, going back to No I.D., I remember when he did an interview about 444, and he was saying how Hov was a little hesitant with doing the album title, the track for the album title, and how he put together the music, and eventually Hov was like, okay, it's time. So I'm wondering, with this being an autobiography, literally and figuratively for you, what was the most emotionally challenging record that you had to do?
Let me think about that. That's a really good question. Well, to write, it was a song that's on there called "Down for Some Ignorance," which is like just exploring the violence in Chicago and its factors that influence it, and the fuel to that fire, so to speak. You know, and there's pride and hypermasculinity and pain and loss all influencing us to act the way that we do. And so that song was really exploring certain situations in my life that were very much involved. And it was a little bit or a lot of bit difficult to like get to a point where I could just write a song about it, because it was so much my reality, you know? And so like in the middle of the album, I was going through, because I wrote the album from February 2016 to like February 2017.
Right.
And so I did a lot of it in a short burst at the beginning. And then, you know, there was like a 6-month period where I was just going through shit in the street, man. I moved back to Chicago and like everything was just going wrong, you know what I mean? And I was like really just like falling into it and getting caught up in it, man, you know? And so I'm like, I'm trying to write about it as it's happening, but it's so currently real, and I'm like still like having motherfucking nightmares of niggas trying to run up in my crib, and I'm sleeping with a pistol next to my bed, and it was so hard to like get my mind in a place where I could be objective about it. And so I guess that was emotionally challenging for me because you know, oftentimes the violence that we're dealing with in Chicago is like dehumanized, and you don't think about how that is affecting people. And I really, really know firsthand how it affected me and continues to affect me. And I wanted to come from a perspective that, you know, had empathy and gave perspective to killers and shooters and robbers and, you know, all of the above, because I've been involved and dealt with all these things really personally. And I had like some very, very close people to me like do some really, really fucked up shit to me. And that shit sent me on a motherfucking negative spiral, because now I'm like, fuck everybody. You know what I mean? Now I'm like, okay, so that happened, so then I do this, and then, okay, so these niggas breaking my car. Okay, well, I'm bugging up now. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm on 10. Because this shit just happened, and y'all motherfuckers don't even know what the fuck I'm going through. You know what I mean? That's where my and I'm even getting worked up even thinking about it, you know, because that's where I was at. So it was really hard for me to like tell the situation, to tell the scenario and write the story, and it took me some time. And then once I got with Pharrell and I did this record called Wings, then it kind of just
Williams
like with Saul Williams and Pharrell, like that record kind of changed the energy for me and like sent me on a path where I was like just very aware of why I was feeling the ways I was, and I felt like empowered to be able to move past it and to talk about it.
I want to play Down for Some Ignorance, just a verse of that, and then go from that to Wings, a verse of that, just to hear that transition you talked about.
It's Sway in the morning, only on Shade 45.